Hello, everybody, and welcome to Theology 101. Today, I'm going to talk about how Jesus hates death. We are going to continue our journey through the seventh and final sign from the Gospel of John. Let's jump back into the story. We know that Jesus waited 2 days after hearing about Lazarus being sick. When Jesus arrives, everyone knows that Jesus waited. And we see 3 times where people questioned Jesus' love for Lazarus. Martha wondered why Jesus took so long. When she says, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." We see identical words from Mary when she first sees Jesus. Now, when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And then the final straw that breaks the camel's back is when the crowd questioned Jesus' love. But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying?" So we see 3 times where people question Jesus' love. 3 times people wondering why Jesus took so long to arrive. And so how is Jesus going to respond to their question? Let's zoom into the scene. We see that many Jews came from Jerusalem to console Mary and Martha. And the fact that many Jews came from Jerusalem, the main city in Israel, it indicates that they had a very high social standing. Typically, when a person dies, people would gather that very same day to have a funeral. And then for 7 days after the funeral, there will be a period of mourning. And the Jewish tradition says that after these 7 days of mourning, it will be followed by 30 days of lighter mourning. And so to highlight the first 7 days of intense grief, the family would typically hire professional mourners in order to let the village know that somebody died in their family. This was a requirement for every family to do. Even a poor family was required to hire 2 flute players and a wailing woman. This wailing woman was a professional mourner that would just start screaming, "Wah!" Now, we know that Mary and Martha were very rich because Mary had a year's worth of wages in perfume. So you can imagine how many flute players and how many wailing women that Mary and Martha hired. Now, when Jesus arrives at the scene, we see Martha's sorrow come out when she approaches Jesus. Even in her sorrow, though, Martha is trying to grab onto any form of hope. So she says that she knows that God the Father listens to whatever Jesus asks. This doesn't mean that Martha believed that Jesus will resurrect Lazarus, but it does mean that Martha, in her sorrow and confusion, knows that Jesus is her only hope. Jesus responds to Martha by saying that one day Lazarus will rise from the dead. But Martha thinks that Jesus is referring to the final day of judgment where every person will be resurrected from the dead. Martha knew her Old Testament, where multiple passages talk about a final day of judgment where all of us will be resurrected. But Martha missed what Jesus was saying. Jesus is giving hope to her not by pointing to a future event, but by pointing to himself. Notice the present tense verbs that Jesus uses. "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" Martha was not completely wrong. Jesus will resurrect everybody one day. That is why he calls himself the resurrection. But Jesus wants Martha to trust in him today and not in just some future event. He is reminding Martha that he is also the life, which means he has the power to give life even today. When Jesus asked Martha, "Do you believe this?" he is asking if her faith can go beyond having the right theology to personal trust in him. Just as Jesus is not only the one who gives bread from heaven, but is himself the bread that comes from heaven, so also Jesus not only gives resurrection and life, but he is the resurrection and life. Now the passage transitions from Martha to Mary. Mary at this point would have been sitting in her house being consoled by all her friends who came from Jerusalem. She hears that Jesus has finally arrived, so she runs out to see him immediately and falls at his feet. We see that Mary says the exact same words as Martha, but there's one big difference. Mary cannot contain her emotions. And we see that Jesus responds to Mary's emotions with his own emotions. As Jesus is watching Mary cry at his feet, it says that he was deeply moved. Now, we might think that this phrase means that Jesus had a lot of compassion, but that is not what deeply moved means. Deeply moved in this context actually means to be angry. It's the same phrase that is used to describe a horse that snorts in anger. So the question is, why is Jesus angry in response to Mary's crying? The first reason is because Jesus is angry at the reality of death. When he sees Mary crumple at his feet, he is angry that death is a reality that all of us will have to face because of sin. He is angry that Mary, whom he loves, has to suffer because of death. So Jesus doesn't give words of hope to Mary like he did for Martha. Instead, he feels the pain of death with Mary. Later, we're going to see when Jesus arrives at the tomb of Lazarus, he weeps. But the question is, why is Jesus weeping if he knows he's going to bring him back to life? Jesus wept for the same reason why Martha, knowing that there is a future resurrection, still weeps. Jesus wept for the same reason Mary crumbles and falls in tears at the feet of Jesus. And Jesus wept for the same reason why you cry when you lose a loved one. Because whether it's been 4 days, 4 months, 4 years, or 4,000 years, losing somebody to death always hurts. Although God created this world, he didn't create death. Death exists because of sin. We were not created to die. And so when people die around us, our soul cries out saying that this is not right. We know that it's not right because we were made to live forever. And so we see that Jesus was angry at the reality of death and the pain that it causes all people. But there's a second reason why Jesus is angry. He is angry at the hopeless response to death. The reason why I say this is because Mary says the exact same words as Martha, but we see that Jesus never got angry with Martha's words. So we know that Jesus is not angry at what Mary is saying, but he is angry at the crowds around Mary who is wailing and crying over Lazarus' death. Keep in mind that there are professional mourners making a scene because this happens during the first 7 days of mourning. And this response makes Jesus angry because people are acting as if death is final. But what Jesus will do is show that although death is a great enemy, it is not an invincible enemy. There is someone who is more powerful than death itself because he holds the power of death in his hands. In fact, in about a week, Jesus will show just how powerful he is by resurrecting from the dead. Jesus becomes the answer to death. He becomes the answer to those who cry without hope. When people question Jesus' love, he responds both as God and as a man. As God, Jesus promises that he is the resurrection and the life. And as a man, Jesus feels the pain of death with us, but will conquer it for us on the cross. Next time, we are going to look at the actual miracle. So please make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you will know when this next video comes out. If you found this video helpful, please like and share with a friend. And until next time, see you.